My name is Chaplain Ayesha Kreutz, and I'm the ambassador for the Frederick Douglass Foundation of New York. But I'm here with the Coalition to Protect Kids, which is a very diverse group of individuals, just like here, right? That is from all spectrums of life, all socioeconomic backgrounds, representing, coming together, which is amazing for this. The Equal Rights Amendment that folks have been talking about throughout the day. So it was very encouraging just to hear so many people know about what's going on. And hopefully it won't be on the ballot in November. But it doesn't change what they've been trying to do all along. And so I do want to just keep on that, right? Like they're constantly trying to protect new protected classes of people, right? That's in essence what a lot of the ERA is trying to do. And even though it may not be on the ballot, but again, we have to wait for the appeal, yay Bobby Ann, to see what happens, they're going to continue to push, right, to change the New York State Constitution either way. And, we're going to ask you to vote no on all of those things. But I've been asked over and over again since I started doing this fight. So I've been in this since probably 2012. I am just a mom who got involved, and I homeschooled my kids for 20 years. They're all grown. So, it wasn't, something that I just popped up on. I've been doing this a long time. And over the years, including with this ERA, this Equal Rights Amendment, or as we like to call it, the Parent Replacement Act, you're like, why is it a Parent Replacement Act? And why is it that you guys, are saying that? And, I thought it was kind of obvious, right, how that works together. But what I want to talk to you about is the history of choice and how the restriction of man's choice is ultimately how man loses his rights. Whether or not you're a believer or not, we've heard that saying, right, that God gave us free will. And if we go back all the way to early 1930s in Germany, the German parliament, called the Reichstag, was lit on fire as soon as Hitler was elected. Hitler decided he no longer needed the input of legislators to pass laws. See, the Constitution being rewritten, right? According to Eric Metaxas, in his letter to the American Church, it says, with a fiery wind at his back, Hitler signed the Restoration Act. Sounds good, right? Equal Rights Amendment. All of these bills, they sound wonderful, which contains something called the Aryan Paragraph. This prevented anyone with Jewish blood from being in government. At the time, the Lutheran Church was officially part of the government. Germany, unlike America, was not founded with our founders' foresight. And it meant that the Jewish people could no longer be pastors in the Lutheran Church. The church was forced to accept Nazis' racial ideology and comply with it. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, best friend, was a pastor of Jewish heritage. His name was Franz Hildebrand. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, "This must not stand," and he stood up to the stripping off of rights through the elimination of choice. He preached and he preached, and for his refusal to shut up, throughout Hitler's reign, Bonhoeffer eventually took the rope around his neck and willingly hanged in glory, rather than being willing to give up his free will or his voice when it came to speaking out against those who would want to destroy man's connection with God, and he didn't sell his soul by compromising with evil. We don't speak so highly of men like Bonhoeffer and William Wilberforce because they were compliant with evil. They're not remembered for all the brave surrenders they made on their way to defeat. They're remembered for being willing to defy the state's demonic desire to strip man of his free will. Without free will, there's no freedom of thought, there's no freedom of movement. There's no freedom of movement. And we're all slaves subjected to the demonic whims of narcissists. As you can imagine, due in part to this color of my skin, I put a lot of thought into this. What are the lessons, the Nazi reign of terror, and how man overcame the state's desire to strip man of his rights? It's a trick question. Man is on the verge of being stripped of his free will again. Not just in every country but America, but in ours as well. Remember this, history is written by the victors. In World War II, Germany had two enemies other than those in Europe, the United States and the United Soviet Socialist Republic of Russia. The USSR, unlike the United States, was run by atheists, and at every opportunity, they took a shot at God. And as atheists, disbelief in God is like a child who covers his eyes so that monsters can't see him. It's just a self-delusion only a child could be forgiven for. Nonetheless, history is written by victors. Many historians contended that the USSR killed Hitler and freed the death camps. These are historians who, godless, refusing to acknowledge God's existence by purposely keeping their eyes covered by their own hands. They teach us that those evil people, people of Christ, all of those things, killed the 6 million Jews, and it's to keep our hands over our eyes. If we take the time to introspect and look at ourselves and look at history through a lens not clouded by our own religion, our own thought, we can clearly see that they want to strip us of our free will and thus our ability to critically think. Here's the truth, right? Hitler, we talk about the 6 million Jews, but there were also another 7 million Polish, Christian, gypsies, all of them, across. There's 13 million that were killed, homosexuals, and that just weren't approved by the Nazi Party. When they killed those additional 7 million, most of which, again, a lot of Christians as well, it's ignored by history, so that those with their hands over their eyes will never see the truth. Instead, they think that Christians killed the Jews, and therefore religion is stupid, and therefore God is dead. Man isn't born evil. He must be recruited into it. And while allowing oneself to be recruited is a wrong choice, as men with free will, we have the right to choose. And it is the greatest right the world has seen, and it has the right to be wrong. So sadly, through many of the choices, because of the full truth, right, that we see out there, truth is purposely denied us by the victors who are left history abridged. And in that vein, consider these questions. If those who are so pro-choice when it comes to killing babies in the womb, why would the Attorney General, Letitia James, be suing the crap out of pregnancy centers for offering a full story to expectant mothers of what they could do instead of killing their babies? Why would we have one presidential candidate forcing another to rot away in courtrooms instead of being willing to compete on the debate stage? And I'm not being partisan there, I'm just saying that it's what's happening. Both parties are behind stripping the people of their right to choose. They say we don't need to choose because they've already chosen for us. Why are Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi demanding the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu surrender and resign? Are the Israeli people undeserving of free will to choose their own leaders? Just as they've decided here in America that we are undeserving to choose our own leaders? What gives them the right to strip another country of their choice? Why does the government do everything it can to prevent Americans from being able to send their children to schools that isn't run by government? Schools' choice is nothing more than the right to choose. But the government has decided we're not allowed to choose. Your children might learn something that might cause them to take their hands off their eyes. They might actually see who the monsters really are. And the bottom line, the government doesn't care about our rights or our ability to choose. Neither party is about protecting our rights at this point. And with the ERA, isn't it all about our rights? It's the mistitle, Equal Rights Amendment. It is a further erosion of the citizens' rights to raise their children according to his own wishes. If the underage girl gets pregnant, will the school have the right to take the child to an abortion death camp and slaughter the citizen's grandchild without ever them knowing? If an underage boy wants to chop off his penis and pretend he's got a vagina while taking medicine that is to castrate pedophiles, can he do that without the input of the citizen? Will the citizen be stripped of his right so the son can do what he wants to do in order to further his childish fantasies? And likewise, is the underage girl who may want to chop off her breast, will the state do that? This would be not medical freedom. but instead sanctioned medical experiment on minors. Like I said, history is written by the victors. And do we really want our history written by girls with no wrist muscles that can hold a pencil while she's taking antibiotics for the neurosis in her vagina? Likewise, do we really want history written by high-voiced men whom we've allowed to get castrated at a time in their lives when they would have chosen a package of Oreos over a stack of $100 bills, if given the choice? We talk a lot about children and who are so young. We don't allow them to choose to smoke or drink, vote, fight for their country, but they can choose to permanently sterilize and disfigure themselves. These children are victims, not victorious, and we have a moral obligation to speak up on their behalf. If we will continue to let our government strip us of our rights, these victims will go on to a life where they will be considered victorious and therefore entitled to write our history. And the history they will write will be devoid of those who spoke up other than how they were burned at the stake. There will be no Bonhoeffers, no Wilberforces, no Frederick Douglasses. It will be a wasteland of souls wishing they had parents who were able to tell them no. Problem was, the government took away the parents' right to say no. And saying no was no longer a available choice. Children were given the equal rights of adults. If this is the future we're going to leave for our children, then hang me now or burn me at the stake. I will not shut up. I would rather die in a blaze of glory than compromise with the evil's desire to strip me of my free will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Queen.
Thank you, Ayesha Kreutz. Okay, folks, that's basically it for the speakers at this point. One last thing we'd like to do, if you're in the mood, if you'd like to just come on up here, we're going to have a group photograph.
Come on up.
So come up and join us.
Yeah, we like to end the rallies like this, especially on a beautiful day. If you want to be on the photo, come on up. Come be with us. We're going to take a photo quickly, and then we're going to be out. Visit your elected officials. You don't come all the way to Albany and not knock on their door. You let them know you're here and do the scavenger hunt. Packet is right here. John's got them if you don't have them.
Scoot in, everybody. Scoot in.